recruitment coordinator.
Alex 2, I'm a recruiter too.
Lila, and I'm a recruitment coordinator.
Alex 3, and I'm the call center
I
coordinator.
think I heard about this.
It's getting around.
There's a few of us. I'm Marlene, and I'm also a recruiter.
Victoria, and a recruiter.
I'm Haley, I'm a recruitment coordinator. I'm Emily, and I'm the special events coordinator.
All right. And I'm Brian Hoey. I'm the incoming associate dean of the Honors College. And I suppose I should continue with my introduction. I've actually been here for 12 years as a faculty member in the College of Liberal Arts. So I'm not new to Marshall, and I'm not new to the Honors College either, really. Although certainly in this capacity, I've done nearly everything else over there. So thanks for the invitation. I think it's important for folks to understand, as recruiters, as much as you can about the various colleges, and certainly the Honors College is one of those, although we're in a somewhat unique position, as I will explain momentarily. So my purpose here today is to provide you with some background information and let you do what you do, which is to decide how best to think about these in terms of recruitment, as to whether or not there are particular selling points or information that you feel will be helpful to you to respond to questions that you may get in various venues and so on. So basically, to give you the what and why of who we are as an honors college, and then let you do your thing. I'm not going to try and do that for you, but I do have some handouts as well, as one might call these. They're not meant to replace me, but rather to leave you with something, and also to have something to refer to as I'm talking about certain kinds of things. I don't want to talk about everything that's on here. I'd rather say, and if you'll refer to this, you'll see the kinds of things I'm talking about.
What's your email?
So here's these.
Thank you.
Send those around. So, all right. Once we get those around, I can begin to refer to it, but for the most part, I think I can get started. We're basically talking about what it means to say honors. It may not be self-evident for folks, and certainly for many parents or students. Some parents and students will be familiar with the concept of honors from high school. Not all schools will necessarily have what would be described as honors, either in name or in principle, but they'll have something like an AP or some kind of course of that nature to suggest that it's above and beyond your usual curriculum. But it is important to recognize, and I think that's one thing that the dean in particular impressed upon me, who couldn't be here today, that, well, although I was always on the schedule, but in past days, Dr. Nikki Ocasio has often attended these sessions, is the idea that honors at the level of higher ed, here at Marshall certainly, is not just more work, but different kind of work, a different kind of work that you're doing in completion of the requirements of any given course. So we're not trying to just add more of the same thing, but to fundamentally change the nature of the education that the students are receiving in those courses that are honors designated. And I'll talk more about that momentarily. And you can, in fact, at this point refer to the handout that I gave you, the first item there, learning outcomes. So this is our stated outcomes. Every program at Marshall, certainly down to the program level, and we don't, as I will say, have quite the same standing as other colleges, so we are more like a program in some ways than a college. But every program will have its own set of outcomes which suggest something about what you're trying to accomplish, and each course contributes in various kinds of ways to fulfillment of these outcomes. So basically, this gives you a sense of the kinds of things that we're trying to accomplish. And principal among these are the ideas that we're trying to create learning environments that are interdisciplinary, which is to say, regardless of what major you may be in, much like general education at Marshall, but again, at an even more enhanced or value-added level, we're trying to create opportunities for students to make connections that they might otherwise have been able to make, and to enrich their experience in whatever major they happen to be pursuing, or majors in some cases, as many of our students will be want to do, 2 or 3 in some cases. But at any rate, leadership as well and service are 2 big points of what we're trying to accomplish as a college, is to provide those opportunities and to encourage and provide some support in achieving leadership, and we do that through such courses as what we call our admin courses in the college, which include, as you'll see later in the curriculum information, Honors 484 and Honors 488, which are optional, they're not required, but those are courses which specifically require students to take on leadership and service roles. Those are our newsletter and steering committee courses, the steering committee for the Honors College Student Association. So as far as honors at Marshall University, I've suggested some things about that. Certainly you've gotten a feel for that in terms of the learning outcomes there, but it began as a program, right, and we became a college. Now, that transformation wasn't as wholesale or significant as it might sound, in that as a college we're a little different, as I said, as other colleges. We're more like a program in some ways, if that makes any sense. But basically there has been a program since the 1960s, early 1960s at Marshall, and we became a college in 2010 officially. 2009, 2010 academic year, we had our first dean of the Honors College, and this all grew out of an effort by the late Dr. Stephen Kopp, president of the university for a number of years. In 2005 decided that we needed a college, and one of the reasons why he said we needed a college was in fact to elevate our standing, at least perceptually, in the eyes of those people who were considering the university as a potential place to come, in that the seriousness of having a college and not just a program would elevate that sense that we had really committed to that, excellence in education that we purported to do as a program. And there are some other advantages as well, but at any rate, that's some of the background there. So, as far as what makes us a little different as a college, and this actually is important when it comes to, I think, how you think about answering questions of how people might perceive what the Honors College is, that is to say students and parents. We don't grant degrees. We're not a degree granting, the institution grants degrees, but I mean the individual colleges obviously are endowed with the capacity to provide for students an education that will lead them to a fulfillment of those requirements the institution sets in collaboration with those various programs. In our case, we don't grant degrees, so the Honors College curriculum, which I'll be saying more about in a moment, is meant to exist outside or across those various degree programs that a student might be in. So it's value added. It's above and outside those various degree programs, as I said. So we don't have our own faculty as well. There are no Honors College faculty. We're committed to the college, which changes the nature of how we do things. We have to collaborate with individual departments. Again, that's part of our mission in some ways, to bring people from all over the university, students and faculty, regardless of their program, regardless of their degree pursuits. That is to say, faculty who are assigned to this or that different college and degree program come to us to collaborate with us to create the opportunities that we endeavor to provide for our students. So I think that's an important idea as a general principle in how we work. We serve the entire university, much like the graduate college does. It serves graduates from across the university. So we serve undergraduates across the university regardless of their degree program. And that does set us apart as a college in important ways. I mean, various colleges serve the entire university, but we do it as a matter of course, and that's what we have to do. So that says a lot about the nature of our mission, which is also on the sheet here, to foster academic excellence in a community of learners whose undergraduate education is enhanced through innovative teaching and learning, and we draw that faculty base to provide that teaching and learning across the university and do so collaboratively. We have a lot of team taught courses especially in our seminars, which can be people from the College of Science on the one hand, and you can have somebody who's, in my case, I've taught courses for the Honors College with an immunogeneticist. I'm an anthropologist, a cultural anthropologist, so that's a pretty unlikely pairing, but we've had very good success in providing that kind of unlikely combination as a source of learning for students, where they can see that there are these connections that may not be self-evident between different disciplines that seem disparate. So we create an intentional, purposeful community among students, which I think is another idea that has some salience among people who are considering Marshall. The idea that this is a big, state university and they might become lost in some way within that. The Honors College provides a ready community from the very first day, and we do many things administratively as well as through our student association to make sure that students maintain a sense of belonging and identity with the college. And again, it exists above and beyond what they may already have within their various programs, but this begins at the very start of their education, as opposed to something they might gradually begin to feel more identity with as they dip deeper and deeper into those required courses and feel more associated with their various degree programs. So it does provide that college within a university feeling, a smaller college experience from the very beginning. We started with 150 students in our very first year. Our incoming inaugural class are about 500 now, which sounds like a lot, and is a lot, but as a functional, from a functional sense, it doesn't really ever work out that there's 500 students all in the same place at the same time trying to be heard or whatever. They tend to go through things more or less as a cohort. So there's a smaller group of 150 students who tend to be identified with each other to some greater extent. Okay, so as far as our curriculum is concerned, I've said a little bit about that already, but you'll see the third item here. I'm not going to go through this in any great detail. I'm not sure to what extent it's important to you other than to maybe answer some questions, but you can see that there are some set courses that are required, the first two there. Again, the idea being that those first year and a half, really, first year or 2 years of a student's experience in the college, they have these shared experiences, the two seminars, the first and second year seminar, and after that, they'll cross paths routinely through these 480 seminars, two of which are required, and those are the ones that we're really drawing on a lot of faculty from across the university to provide those occasionally team talk courses or solo courses that are purposefully interdisciplinary and are kind of the cornerstone of our mission in that regard. And then there's a whole slew of additional credits that they can earn across a couple of those courses that I mentioned, those admin courses, the ones that really focus on leadership. And there are the opportunities to create an honors course out of any course at the university through what we call the H option. So as far as students might worry about whether or not they can complete the requirements of the college on top of what else they're doing, it's important to impress upon them the idea, the fact that the courses that we offer, certainly those like FYS 100, you'll see the H after it. There's FYS 100 plain vanilla version, and then there's the honors version. So right there, they're picking up honors credit for a course they already have to have. And similarly, when you talk about gen ed requirements like multicultural, international, and writing intensive and things of that nature, we have courses that in our seminars, for example, will have those attributes. So they're knocking down their list of required gen ed requirements while also fulfilling courses. So that's an important thing. This is not just another 24 credits of stuff that's not going to do anything for them other than this honors stuff, whatever that is. It's also fulfilling other requirements, and that's important as people to get like that. And which is not to say that there aren't certain programs, engineering, nursing, for example, that have very, very little flexibility in their schedule that can provide challenges. But I will say we are very, how do I phrase this, adept at making those schedules work within the college. We really do provide that sort of one-on-one attention to students when it comes to advising we provide advising above and beyond what they get anywhere else. Regardless of the nature of the advising they're getting there, we're also providing advising for their honors curriculum. And to the extent that we can, to see how best to integrate that with their commitments to their degree programs and the honors college. Does that make sense? All right, so as far as eligibility is concerned, obviously that's going to be a big question. So how do I get into the honors college? As of right now, subject to change, we have a new provost. If you haven't heard the news, things can change with regards to such matters as this. And we also, at the present time, don't have a director of financial aid, which could, in fact, have a very big impact on this question of eligibility. Insofar as right now we have an arrangement with financial aid where basically they are not determining, but based on the criteria that's been provided, which is quantitative. The information is here. There's certain ACT scores or SAT composite scores that will be used to determine whether or not a student is given the opportunity to join the honors college. Some honors colleges, some honors programs have application processes, of various sorts. We don't. As to what I might want personally down the road, well, that's for another day. But I think, as of right now, the point is that when people submit an application to the university, it is automatically considered against those criteria. And if they meet the eligibility requirements for admission to the honors college, they receive an offer letter, and then they have a date by which, after which they have missed their opportunity, although they can appeal. But they have a date that they have to accept that offer. And then if they accept it, they are added to the roster, the enrollment. They become part of a member of the honors college. And all the rights and obligations therein. So the key point here is that students need to acknowledge that they received this if they want it in the affirmative. And if they don't, then they are not added. But there's no separate application process. This is done as a matter of course. So it makes it easy, but there are some disadvantages to it as well.
Also, new people, they don't super score for the honors college. But I know we talked a little bit about that yesterday. So that's something that has to be single test.
Yes, that's right.
Test.
So May 1st is typically the date that we do require those responses to the offer. And the offer letter is generated, again, through the Office of Financial Aid. It's our letter, and it will have obvious honors college letterhead and all that, but it does come through the Office of Financial Aid. That's part of the overall. And there is and I say this with some caution because there are a lot of factors that affect these kinds of things. I don't claim to know the Byzantine nature of what goes on in financial aid, but there is, as a general rule, an annual award or scholarship or tuition waiver, however you want to phrase it, and it's phrased variously in various places, that comes with admission to the college. And as long as you're in good standing, that would happen for 4 years. So that's a perk, and that kind of brings us to the benefits question. Basically, why would you want to be in the honors college? Well, for all the reasons that we've already said, interesting courses with interesting people, a smaller community of what you might consider like-minded people who are serious about, their studies and so on and so forth, but also the potential of, and I think for most students it is the case that they do receive this $500, again, however you want to phrase it. We also have, again, this is a list here that you can refer back to, the Living Learning Community and the freshman residence halls, as well as Willis, with a certain designated floor for the Honors College on a first-come, first-served basis. The Honors College does not we collaborate with the Housing and Residence Life, but it is really their game, there, so they oversee that. And as far as the particulars of that program, that is really theirs to answer. There's privileges such as early registration, which is pretty popular actually. extended library borrowing. We have a computer lab and study lounge that are specific to the honors college that students can use. They can print there, which is like quite popular. Just got to bring your own paper.
Such a selling point. Free printing.
Pardon?
Free printing is such a selling point for some reason. Kids love it.
We got it. When the printers are working now. That's pretty routine. Yeah, they work pretty regularly. I will test it's right. And then the last thing here that I haven't really spoken to specifically is that there are opportunities and support for travel. You may have noticed in the list of ways that you can earn honors credit. Study abroad is one of them. And of course, we have an office of study abroad, and students can make their arrangements through that office for this study abroad, and then they can apply to us. We have a form for this where they can say, having done X, Y, and Z, I would like to apply for credit in the honors college for this study abroad experience, and we'll review that. In most cases, we will grant that, and we will also, in many cases, allow for some additional support, financial support for that study abroad. There's no set figure that I can give you for that because it really depends on what's available at any given point in our budget. But we do often support students in travel to conferences or to engage in study abroad. So that's an additional benefit or value, I think, for students. I'm winding down here. So as far as other additional opportunities or talking points or whatever you want to say here, the Honors College is home to a couple of important entities, I guess you could say, that are worth mentioning. The first of those, and probably most famous, noteworthy, is the Society for Jaeger Scholars. That actually predates the Honors College by some considerable number of years. I mean, it's actually on its 32nd year, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, named after the equally famous, much more famous in many respects, Brigadier General Chuck Yeager, our very own. And it's named for him for the idea that he broke the sound barrier, right? And he is kind of the symbolic head of the Jaeger Society for Jaeger Scholars, insofar as it's intended to break the barriers of conventional education. That's a factor. And indeed, it has a long track record of doing that and providing exceptional opportunities. It's basically listed here on the sheet the kinds of opportunities that this provides. This is a separate application process, of course. There's an extremely competitive process for that. Yet, students who, again, are eligible, and there's more information on the college website, we provide that whole year. Didn't want to overwhelm you, and that's kind of a separate issue. That means part of the Honors College, but it's an additional thing. So you can check that out. But basically, it's highly competitive. But if students meet at least the basic, again, quantitative ACT kind of requirements or SAT requirements, they should certainly give it a try because it's a pretty exceptional, in my estimation, among those scholarships in the country, probably one of the better ones out there. Frankly, I mean, it's a full ride with money for
room and board, a laptop, study abroad, a stipend.
And Oxford, by the way.
Yeah.
So
About when is the deadline for that? I get that
December.
December
1st or 15th.
Yeah.
It's a date in September. Yeah, I'm sorry, December. Well, actually,
Is that for the upcoming term or the
Yes.
term you're enrolled in?
So
Because there's
fall
like
of
a
19.
lengthy selection
Yeah, so
process.
for
Yeah.
students that will be recruiting
For the
Jaeger,
fall of
yeah.
2019,
So
it's
for this year,
December
it's December.
2019.
Yeah.
So December of their senior year.
and the process is the application, then there's a phone interview, and then there's an on-campus visit. And the on-campus visit is where the final decision is.
I found that most students already know about the Jaeger that are like eligible for it, basically, because those kind of students are obviously more motivated. But if I meet anyone with above a 30 ACT, I always tell them about it because I think that's
Is that the minimum?
I think it's 30 and above, right?
30 and above ACT.
Yeah, and then obviously they're going to have the GPA.
Also, it's good to know for those who are recruiting in West Virginia too that like there is usually an ACT and an SAT date in December, and they do usually accept that. I know that I've had questions about that in the past too, that they accept up into the December test. So if that person's like, because it's again a one-time test, 30 or above, so sometimes they're like, I have a 29, and they try again in December, and they get that 30. Go ahead, still fill out the application, send in everything, and then potentially if your score is coming, then we'll get them. So,
That's good. So, yeah, I don't know if this is, I'll mention this because it's again kind of a thing to know.
It opens
We have an
October
Office of National Scholarships. It's based in the Honors College.
December 9th.
And I like to, whenever I can, let people know that this is not just for honor students. So this is actually not a benefit that's exclusive to honor students. So as far as that's concerned,
This just says
this
that it's closed.
is outside that mission that I have here today, which is just to say that any student coming to the university
Says
should know
it's now
about this office.
closed.
And it isn't, even though it is based in the Honors College, just for honor students. So if for any reason you ever have a cause to speak to the Office of National Scholarship, students should know they don't have to be in the Honors College to take advantage of that. We're more than happy to help students, regardless of who they are, to attempt for and hopefully attain one of the many different national scholarships that they assist students with there. And we've had some exceptional results in the last few years. And the students that come from across the university, honors college, and non-honors students. All right. The only other thing I would add would be, please do have a look at our honors website. I just updated it. That's one of my duties, is to update the website on an ongoing basis. So I've done my best. And there is also a downloadable informational packet there for incoming students that can serve as well for potentially prospective students. There's sections on the website that are for current and prospective as well for students, but there is a link